Here is a lower body workout that's going to get those hamstrings and glutes firing. You're going to need a little bit of everything, the exercise equipment that you have. We'll start out a little bit slower, then we'll pick it up. We're going to do some isolated strengthening exercises that won't be super fast paced, but again, you're going to be feeling those hamstrings burning and hopefully not cramping up, but they'll definitely be getting stronger. And then we'll move into dynamic multi-joint movements where again it'll be a good workout that's going to incorporate strength, and you want to keep it fast paced, try to minimize the rest, and we'll be focusing on repetitions. But to get started, first we'll be seated, and we're just going to loosen up that low back where you stretch down, try to touch your heels or even the floor, and then come back up. Focus on your posture, sit up nice and tall, again bending forward, reaching down, coming back up, sitting up nice and tall. Get a little squeeze across the abs, and I want you to do that 10 more times. So as you're completing that stretch, also in between these exercises, I'll give you the exercise, demonstrate it, give you repetitions, then pause this video. If you have some other music that you want to listen to, you can turn that on or even keep that on, and then when you're ready for the next exercise, hit play and then keep going. So I'm sure you finished 10 of those by now, and I want you to cross one leg over. Ankle should be kind of on that knee. Place that hand there, and this one we're just going to hold. This one we're going to press down. We're going to try to open that hip up, and you may feel a little tension on the outer side of the hip too. So I want you to do that 10 times on this side, and then switch 10 times on this side. And that's just loosening that hip up, getting that hip ready for these exercises. So when you do those 10, now I want you to cross it over. We're going to change the angle. So try to get knee over knee, and we're going to switch. We're going to press down here, and we're going to pull up with this hand. So let's do that 10 times. Just changing the angle, and then switch it. Get your position, place that hand there, pull this one up 10 times. And you have your closer band or your more narrow band. You have band with handles. You knock out those stretches, and next up, I want you to get your jump rope. Woo! Found mine. $100 of those jump ropes. Single unders. 100. Knock those out. So as I mentioned, if you have a bench or a step, if you want to use that step for some of these exercises, that'll be great. Next up, we're going to go, actually, I'm going to use my bench for just tying the tube band, and if you have a door, a handle, you can use that. I'm going to use my handles where I'm going to hold. That way I know the band's not going to snap back at me here. But you could do it the opposite way. You could have the handles on the door. But here, I'm going to crisscross. I want to keep tension on the band, and I want to be nice and vertical. We're going to go to a hip hinge where we push our hips back, a nice flat back in a straight line. Bring our hips forward. So what we're focusing on here is all the hip movement. All right, so push those hips back, Bring those hips forward. So we're tightening up our hamstring, tightening up our glute, also tightening those abs. The band is just giving you more resistance. So I want you to do 20 of these hip hinges. And then we'll place that band off to the side here. And we're going to use our arms. So we're going to hinge, come up, hinge, come up. Kind of like that kettlebell swing. And I want you to do 20 of those hinges, bringing those arms up. Now if you have those weights, ankle weights, dumbbell, we're going to use that. We're going to hold those weights. We're going to go to our hinge. Weight is kind of at the knee level. We're going to come, swing up just like our kettlebell swing, right? Hips back, hips forward, hips back, hips forward. Now I want you to do 20 of those swings. So next up, we're going to use the band. And I want you to make a loop, plant your feet there, and we're going to do like a deadlift. So we have our hips back, and we're going to bring our hips forward. We're going to stand up nice and tall. But we're going to do speed deadlifts. The band doesn't give you a whole lot of resistance, especially when you're used to deadlifting 135 or 155 pounds. So focus on speed, focus on repetitions. And I want you to do 50 of those. Yeah, 50. So if you have that closer loop for your smaller band, we're going to use that, and you can place that band just right above the knee joint. And next up, we're going to complete a hamstring bridge, kind of similar to the glute bridge, but it's going to be focusing on specifically the hamstrings and straightening those hamstrings up. So we're going to use that bench. We're going to lie, have your feet up, heels on that bench. Here, you want to lift those hips up off the mat. You should feel the tension on the hamstrings. Here, you want to try to place those knees out a little bit wider. We're going to extend one leg, drop it down, extend that other leg, drop it down. For this exercise, I want you to do 2 sets of 20. It'll be 10 on each side, but 2 sets. And then when you finish up the hamstring version, then we are going to go into the regular glute bridge. Kind of like the same position, except have your feet on the edge there. And we're going to lift those hips all the way up, back down. And we want to try to brace the core here, get that body in a straight line here. And again, tension out on that band. So we're doing 20 of those glute bridges. Again, 2 sets. 2 sets. Next up, we're going to flip it over. We're going to cross one leg right at that knee joint. Here we're going to focus on lifting your knee up off that mat, keeping those hips down so it all comes from that knee. And here we're focused on getting the glutes firing. So we're gonna do 10 on this side, and then switch 10 on this side, and then do a second set of 10 on each side. After you knock out those reps and those sets, we're gonna go back to our bridge, where we hold our bridge. We have our band, and we're gonna march. We're driving that knee. And make sure you're keeping tension on the band. If you need to place those feet a little bit wider, try to keep those hips up. And for this one, we're doing 40 marches. You count each one. Try to minimize the break, but again, doing 2 sets. So 80 total. If you want to just do a full set of 80 all in one shot, that'll work. So for the next one, we're going to bring one foot forward like this, one knee back like this. So we're kind of bent at a 90. Hold yourself vertical. That back knee is the one that you want to try to lift up, lift high, and then bring it back down. So if you had the band on, it might not work, but do 20 with this side, and then we're going to flip over. We're going to do 20 with this side. And again, that's focusing on the hip, on the glute. And all of these exercises are going to be really beneficial for all of the walking or the running. It's really going to help relieve the knee pain, any knee pain, back pain. So the hips are so important because they're connecting kind of everything all together. That next exercise, put the band back on, and if you have the exercise ball, this will be a time to use that, or I'm going to use the bench since I don't have one. If you have a bench or chair that you want to use, that's fine too. The ball would be a little bit more beneficial because it's not quite stable. It's going to force you to use your abs even more. So get into your position where your back is on the ball, hips are rolled off or down, tension out on the band. We're going to go to our tabletop bridge or reverse tabletop like this, and really focus on lifting and squeezing the glutes, and at the top there bracing across the core. And if you have your weights, if you want to take a weight or both of those weights, you can place those weights at your hips, bridge up and back. So I want you to do 40 of those bridges. And then next up, we're going to get into a position like a bear crawl, and we're going to lift one leg up 10 times, kicking that heel towards the ceiling. We're going to switch. We're going to do that side 10 times, and then a second set of 10 for each side. So knock out those repetitions. And next up, back to your step. And this will be like a frogger position where you want to have your feet together, your knees out, and we're going to go back into our bridge here and down. So I want you to do 2 sets of 20 repetitions. And then we're going to do a quick reset with our hips. So with our hip reset, place your hand behind one leg and in front of the other. And we just want to put tension against and then switch, and you're just working back and forth, placing some isometric contraction. Then place both hands in between the knees and squeeze. You just want to do that like 5 times, and then place those hands on the outside and push those knees out wide, again like 5 times. And then next up we're going to work on kind of like a sprinter motion. So it's going to be super great for running, but you're working that hip mobility and hip strength all the way through. So on one side, and you want to drive that knee forward. Actually, you can place one arm, one hand here, try to hit your elbow, and then kick it back as far back as you can. So you're working that running motion all the way through. 10 on that side. We'll switch it up here. Again, you can place your arm here, use your elbow as a target. Try to get your knee to your elbow, and then kick that heel up and back like you're trying to sprint. Again, 10 times. And then do a second set. Another 10 on each side. And then I'm sure you'll be ready for the next couple of multi-joint, full lower body exercises. Next up, we're going to do a counterweight squat with a pause. We're going to work that squat depth, squat motion, good squat position, isometric hold. So if you have those weights, grab those weights, hold that weight out, feet shoulder width apart, feet forward, drop those hips down. We're going to hold that squat for a 5 count. 4, 3, 2, 1, and then up, down, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and up. So I want you to do 2 sets of 10, or if you want to do 20 straight through, do 20 repetitions. Next up, hold those weights. We're going to be going into our squat, and then we're going to step back into a lunge, squat, step back into lunge, squat, lunge, squat, lunge. Count those lunges, and you want to do 10 on each side, or 20 total. but you're going to be doing a second set. So again, if you want to do it all at one time, all the way through, you can do that, or take that quick break. Then split squat. So 1 foot up, 1 foot forward, down and up. Work through that depth, that range of motion. And for this one, I want you to do 15 repetitions on one side and then switch 15 on the other side. But you're going to be doing 2 sets. So if you want to do 30 and 30, now we want to tie in some core. So you're going to need a good surface, and we're going to do a plank with a leg lift. So low plank, try to keep those elbows right under those shoulders, lift one leg up and then switch. Try to stay stable, and when you lift, you should feel that tension again at the hip. Try to keep that leg straight, heel up. 30 total, 2 sets of 30. And then we'll move on to our next exercise. So now we'll come to a full lying position, and we want to lift both heels up at the same time, kind of like a scuba diver. So lift those heels up. Tension should be hamstrings, glutes. Two sets of 20 for that exercise. And then grab those weights. We're going to go into a reverse lunge. Same side leg, step up. Bring that opposite knee up. Down, reverse lunge. Work through good depth. Step up, same side, knee up. I want you to do 15 on one side, then switch, 15 on the other side. Again, 2 sets, so you're doing 30 on each side. Good range of motion. Here, 90-degree bend. As you step up, bring this knee up, 90 degrees, flex at the hip. And then we'll do a few stretches for the hips and for the legs. So next up, I want you to bring one knee forward. This is like your pigeon stretch. Try to drive that other knee up, and we're going to sit back so that stretch is on this side and on the outer side of this side. So kind of like your legs are in a pretzel. Slide that leg back, sink into that stretch, and then switch. Bring this knee up, and again slide that knee up, sit back into that stretch as far back as you can. And then slide that leg back. And then we're going to switch. So you have one leg back, we're going to cross that other leg over, and again sit back into that stretch. So our legs are kind of crossed, kind of like a pretzel, and then switch. So we're switching, bringing that leg across, sit back into that stretch. When you come out of that stretch, We want to do a stretch for the adductors. So we have our butterfly stretch. And then we want to work just kind of like side to side. So that way you're trying to get that knee all the way down to the floor. And then like we did at the beginning, you want to take one hand, press on that side, push it down like 10 times, and then switch it over to this side, press it down like 10 times. Then let's lie back, extend up one leg, grab behind. So we have our hamstring stretch. Point the toe down, point that toe up. And we'll do that 10 times. Bring that leg over to the side. Take your other hand around and pull it and then switch other side. So try to lock that leg out, pull it up as far as you can, point that toe down, and then up, down, and up. And again, we want to do that 10 times. And then let that leg come across. Take that opposite hand, reach around, and pull.
All right, that's it.